wanted to start by giving you a sense of where Mount Rainier is actually located. So you can see Tacoma's over here, and then you just head north and get to Seattle. Rainier is probably about an hour, hour and a half from Tacoma, so staying in this area might be nice. Probably most of the park that you're going to want to see, especially if you only have one day, is this southern area, and that's what we saw and what I'll show you on the videos. And so there's lots of places to stay kind of throughout here. We actually stayed in a place called Mossy Rock, which is out in this direction, and we did that because we visited Mount Rainier one day, and then the day before we had visited Mount St. Helens, which is probably about equal distance down in this direction from where our RV park was at. So we did that so we'd have a good base camp. It was pretty far though. It probably took us about 45 minutes to get to the entrance for Mount Rainier as we came up this way, and then we did this whole southern trek and then came down Stevens Canyon and out through the park on this side and then came back home this route. So let's do a close-up of the park map. This is the full park map for Mount Rainier. You can see it's a really large park. There is an entrance up on this upper edge, Carbon River entrance, and then there's like bike trails and you can hike and stuff, but there's not a ton to do, and there's not access then to get to other areas of the park. So if it's your first time coming and you're only here one day, I wouldn't really recommend that side. Same thing over here. Sunrise I hear is really beautiful, and had we had a second day or even just an evening, we would have taken this drive up to Sunrise, done some hiking, and maybe tried to make it out to the lookout tower. If we head back, this is, well, when we head back, this is for sure one of the things that we're going to want to do. And this is access over from the east side of the park. We didn't really have time for that, so we focused on really the main highlights of Mount Rainier Park. So we came in through the Nisqually entrance, and then I'll show you kind of along the way as we headed up and did this path. We went up through Paradise and then came down through the canyon and over and ended at the Grove of the Patriarchs Trail and came out through this entrance. So that's what the video will show you today, is how you can get this all completed within the day. I think we entered the entrance at about 9 o'clock, and we were leaving out here from Grove of the Patriarchs probably by 4 or 5. So we still managed to get all of this in and did a whole hike up at Paradise. So let's get on to the videos. As I mentioned, this is the Nisqually entrance for Mount Rainier. We were here the Wednesday after Labor Day, so I think it was September 9th, 2020, so it's during COVID, and you'll see a few kind of changes and stuff because of that, but you can also see that there is virtually nobody here. We are the only ones pulling into the entrance. I mean, this is the kind of place where I expected to have a mile-long line of people just waiting to enter the park, and we loved it. We got here at 9 a.m. It was a Wednesday, and there was nobody here. Tons of parking at Paradise and all the other places that we wanted to go. So I highly recommend coming here on an off-season day. Actually, technically, this was still part of summer, and it was really nice and warm, and it was a sunny day, so it was a beautiful day to be here. But schools would have been back in session, and people would have generally been working in the middle of the week, and that's really the time to come, because this is a very busy park. It's not very far for people who live in some of the major cities of those northwestern towns, and so it's a very popular park for people who are up in the Northwest. And it makes it a very busy park. But as you can see here, not a lot of people here on a Wednesday in September. When we were planning our Pacific Northwest trip, we knew we wanted to hit all the national parks up there, and that's why Mount Rainier was on our list, but I really didn't know much about it. I just kind of said, you know, it's going to be a mountain peak. It won't be that different than Rocky Mountain National Park or other places, but I was really wrong. It's really spectacularly beautiful, huge forest areas, and then as you come up to where the volcano's actually at, there's just glaciers all over and waterfalls flowing, and the hiking is spectacular, and it really was just a magical park. We all put it in our top 5 of favorite parks. After being to more than half of them, we all said that this is a top 5 park. And our first stop was Christine Falls, which is just off from the main road. We are at the Christine Falls viewpoint, and there is nobody here. This is the Thursday after Labor Day. And it's amazing, nobody is here. As you head further up after Christine Falls, there's a one-way bypass road that kind of takes you along the outer edge, and you can get this great view of Mount Rainier. We took some photos here, and we're just amazed to be able to see Mount Rainier in the distance like this, but having these beautiful clear views of all the glaciers on top. Narada Falls, another very short little hike. I think it's 0.1 from the parking lot. It only had about 5 cars in it, so not very bad. That must be the viewpoint. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Look up here, try to tilt your head up.
So Narada Falls was another quick, easy hike, definitely recommend seeing. And then we came up to Paradise. So Paradise becomes a one-way trek, but I highly recommend stopping there. Paradise will give you an area with ample hiking trails and just spectacular mountain views. We are at Paradise. Still plenty of parking, and it's, I don't know what time it is. It's 10:30. Not get to my watch from under my coat. The visitor centers weren't open, but there were bathrooms that were open. We could use those, and then we could talk to a ranger outside and get the junior ranger packets so the girls could work on those. And we had a couple questions, and then we set out here on the series of different trails that you have to hike up to the glaciers. Beautiful Mount Rainier. It's a little bit of a hike. Must be 30-40% grade on that hike. It is paved, but don't let that fool you. You're gonna keep going. There are some really steep grades here, especially on this early part. It's paved, but that doesn't mean that it's easy to do or you could do with a walk or anything, but it's great trail. You can see wildflowers. There's marmots everywhere. We couldn't believe how big and fat the marmots are that are along here. And then you're also just getting these amazing views, not only of Mount Rainier, but all the mountain ranges that are nearby. You can see some smoke here in the distance. We've been dealing with the smoke really on most of our Pacific Northwest trip, but on this particular day, we had some pretty blue skies. I think maybe because it was a little bit windy, it kind of cleared out some of that smoke, at least from our direction, and it gave for some beautiful sights and just a really wonderful day to be hiking here. I think if you were here on a rainy day, you'd really miss out because you probably wouldn't have as much for the views. Maybe they can grow bigger than the Rocky Mountain marmots because they have more oxygen. Although the elevation, I think, is about the same. We were trying to make it to Panorama Point, which I think would have been about 3 miles in on the hike, but probably about 2.5 miles the girls just kind of tuckered out and they couldn't do anymore. It was also really windy up here, and I think they were starting to get hungry and kind of done with the day, but man, look at those views, just spectacular. Jeremy went ahead and hiked a little bit further up. He wanted to see the glaciers a little bit closer. You can see some of the waterfalls and stuff there off the side of the mountain, And you can really take this trail and hike much closer. So you can make this as little or as much of a hike as you want. You probably want to at least get above tree line so you can have those spectacular views. So plan to at least hike for a couple of miles, but you don't have to make it a 6-7 mile journey if you don't want to, and you can still see some really fantastic views. This is one of my favorites. Mount Rainier is an active volcano and it will erupt again, the ranger explained to us, but probably not for maybe 1,000 years, so it won't be in my lifetime. She said that when it does erupt though, that the lahars, which are kind of those mudslides where the earth just all pushes down with the lava, it will pull all the way down to Seattle when that happens. We stopped at Reflection Lakes and ate our picnic lunch that we had brought along. At this point in time, this is really where you probably could turn back around and head back out the Nisqually entrance if you only had part of a day or maybe 4 or 5 hours or something and you needed to get back. We decided to go ahead and continue going through the canyon. So this is Stevens Canyon. This road is not open during the winter time. There's actually a number of places that are not open in the winter. Paradise is not open. You can't go up onto that road. You can't take this Stevens Canyon road, which as you'll see, you can see why it would not be a very safe road during the winter months. And they don't plow it. It just gets so much snow and it's not very safe. So I don't even think I would drive this with my RV. In fact, actually we couldn't, because you'll see in the video there's some points where we go through tunnels, and I believe the tunnel clearance was 12 foot 6 inch, which for our RV is not tall enough. We have a 13.6 minimum, and we like to at least have 14 feet if we're going to go through a tunnel. So we're driving in our Jeep on this trip, and I would highly recommend not bringing your RV into the park, just because I think it's going to be a pain, not only in trying to get through the tunnels and stuff, but also finding parking, because a lot of the lots are set up with parking where you're pulling into it and it's not kind of pull through parking where you could easily park a large motorhome. If you have a smaller van or a Class B or something, you'll probably be fine as long as you're okay with the tunnel height limits. So this is Stevens Canyon and we're just heading through, and you can see some of the views, and as we wind around this, it kind of curves its way down the mountain, and we're heading back lower in elevation. Along this Stevens Canyon road, you'll find a couple of different pullouts and places where you can stop and take some pictures and see some of the sights and stuff like that. We decided not to do any stops because we were trying to make our way over to Grove of the Patriarchs, and we still have quite a bit of time till we're heading over there, probably from the time that we left Reflection Lakes till we actually got to the Grove of the Patriarchs trail was at least a good half hour, just because there's so much driving in this switchback stuff and you're kind of going slower. And there's also the tunnels, and that meant that you have to be stopped for a while as they're allowing traffic to go through the tunnels. Grove of the Patriarchs. This is what the parking lot looks like. Not very big. We had to wait for a spot. So as I mentioned, we had to wait for a parking spot to open up for us and somebody else to leave. But at this point in time, it's probably about 2 o'clock, 2:30. So it's a little bit more crowded here at the park. And this is closer to an entrance that is over on the southeast side of the park. So some people might just be coming in and coming to Grove of the Patriarchs and not even seeing the rest of the park. So this trail is really incredible because you're seeing these really large Douglas firs and redwoods and these amazing other trees. The trail is a lot of fun because there's a lot of fun things to climb under and stuff as you go along. And then there's also a suspension bridge, which the kids were really excited about getting to cross over that. You could actually go down and walk through the river this time of year that's underneath. It'd be pretty cold, but you could walk it. We decided instead to take the bridge across, and that was a lot of fun for the kids to do the bridge, as you can see here. I believe this trail was a little over a mile. It really wasn't that long. You head out to the area and then there's a boardwalk that kind of circles around in a loop, and it takes you around to see all the different types of trees. And then you work your way back through the front of the trail back to the parking lot. So not a very long hike, perfect for families. There's lots of other YouTube videos and stuff that you can check out too if you want to just see what this trail is going to look like. But I highly recommend stopping to see this. And it really wasn't that big of a deal to just hit this at the end of the park because we're going to head out through that other entrance instead of heading all the way back through Paradise and out through the Nisqually entrance. So it was a good way to do it. One of my favorite pics of the trip. This is why we homeschool, this is why we travel. And with that, our one day at Mount Rainier had come to an end. So hopefully this video was useful for you in planning your trip to Mount Rainier, especially if you're driving in an RV and you only have a day and you're traveling with kids. You can follow us at RV Homeschool on Instagram and Facebook. We also have a bunch of different videos about national parks and traveling in an RV and other general things about having a motorhome. So thank you so much for your support. If you liked the video, please give it a like. You can add any comments or ask any questions. Thanks so much for watching and have safe travels.